Well, welcome to this webinar from Frenchly. Thank you everyone for joining us today. A special thanks to the over 100 people who registered for this webinar. The webinar is hosted by Frenchly, English language platform connecting Americans and international audiences with opportunities, insights about France. Today, we'll look at what's happening in the Paris property market in 2026, where opportunities are, what international buyers should watch out for. We have three experts joining us. The first one is Renaud and Marius Coulon, real estate
Hi.
specialists in Paris
Hello.
and partners at Paris. And Amaury de Monclin, founder of BlueSky Finance, who helps international buyers secure French mortgages. We'll also explain why many We'll also explain why many US buyers choose to finance their purchase in euros, not dollars, even when they have the cash available on hand. We'll answer all your questions at the end of this webinar. So feel free to put them right now in the Q&A at the bottom of the screen on Zoom. If you're following us on YouTube, we'll also answer any questions you may have. Let's start. I think Marius is going to share his screen, and then I'll come back at the end to answer any questions you may have. Marius,
Yes.
the floor is yours.
Yes. Renaud, you want to start?
Yeah, good morning,
the name?
everyone. My name is Renaud. I'm the founder and broker of Real Estate in New York and in Paris. So Marius, who you see here, is my partner in Paris and is the broker in Paris, and used to be an associate broker in New York. So we both know those two cities, New York City and Paris, very well. This is who we are, like 15 years plus experience in France and in Paris and in New York as a real estate broker. And we are doing a lot of purchases, sales, and also in New York City rentals. We have done hundreds of transactions every year, as well in Paris and in New York. And we are ranked in the top brokers in New York City. So basically, the Real Estate is doing three things. First thing is residential sales and rentals for mainly expats. So we are known as the agency #1 for the Francophones in New York City. Second thing we are doing is development and construction. This is mainly for investors who are willing to buy a project here in New York City, and we are buying a property, extending it, renovating it, and then selling it. And we are doing a huge profit at the end of that. Last thing is the property management. So we also take care of properties we are buying, and not only for our clients. So Dirty Real Estate is in the middle of those three blocks on three services we offer to our clients. So in New York City, we are known as the premier Francophone real estate agency, and we are mainly doing business in Brooklyn and in Paris, and in Manhattan, sorry. And in Paris, we also have an office there because we're the #1 for the Francophone. So we have a foot on the other side of the Atlantic in Paris as well. So we are doing a lot of sales, and that's where all began for both of us. I mean, Marius and I, because we were working together in the Paris real estate industry many decades ago.
Yes. Basically, in New York and in Miami, in the US, we are helping like French people to invest in the country. And we are doing the opposite here in Paris, helping foreigners, especially American, to buy a property in Paris and in France. So that's why you can go to dirtyparis.com. So you can gonna find all the information about the market, and today we are going to talk about the real estate market in Paris in 2026, and to see if it's still the place to be. And yes, it is. And the first question is, why investing in Paris? So first, as you know, Paris is the most beautiful city in the world. And secondly, this is one of the safest real estate market you can find in the world. That's why a lot of people, like a lot of foreign buyers, are buying in Paris. Compared to major city in the world, we can't build anymore in Paris. Everything is protected. So the offer stay the same, but the demand is rising. And we saw it during all the crisis we had in 2008, or even recently with the COVID, or with the rising of the interest rates. Paris is went down by 5 to 10% compared to a major city went down by 15, 20, 25%. So what's happening in 2026? First, the average price for Paris per square meters, it's just below the 10,000 euro per square meters. New York, the average in New York is around 15, 16. So you can have compare both cities. Obviously, the 6th arrondissement, we put like on the right side, on the left side, it depends. The arrondissement with the average prices. The 6th arrondissement is still the most expensive one, so it would be around 14 to 15K. But if you want a nice address, nice building, good renovation, will be closer to the 20K per square meters. So right now, all our clients from the US and foreign buyers are mainly focused in the center of Paris. So between the 1st to the 7th and the 8th, where obviously Saint-Germain, the 6th, the 7th, and the 5th drained a lot of clients, but also the 3rd and the 4th with the Marais. The 1st is still a strong market. And then we have also other clients looking for other arrondissements like the 10th or the 11th, which bring more like Persian lifestyle, and even with the 16th or the 17th for like bigger places. So what's up,
Marius?
Yes.
You know, one of our American clients told me like a shortcut that everyone should have in mind. So to sum up everything here, it's just by saying Paris, it's 2 times more beautiful and 2 times less expensive.
That's correct.
It's almost that.
That's correct. So right now, for the market, so what happened between 2015 and 2020? The mortgage rate was so low in France, around 1%. Then we had COVID, and then we have the rising of the mortgage rates, the loan rates. So between 2022 and 2024, the price went down by 8 to 10%. That's why if you bought it like 5 years ago, it was not the right time. It's not the right time to sell. Sorry. And as you can see, like it's been like 2024 was down, 2025 was pretty stable, but since the end of 2025 we see the pricing like going up a little bit, because we are the French people coming back to the market, because the French mortgage rates are lower now. As you can see, for French residents, I think Amaury will talk about it later, but you're around 3.4%. And for a non-resident, as like a US person, because you can have a loan in France if you are not a French resident, it will be under 4. So Amaury will talk about it later, but it's still more lower than the US, so more interesting for you if you want to get a loan in France.
Yeah, and again, it's almost 2 times lower than what we can find in New York.
Yeah. So if you're here, also it's like you want to know, to understand what's the market and why you need a buying agent in Paris. Yeah. So we did like a nice video with Renaud in Paris to explain you everything. So if you have time after it, you can see it. And it's also on our website. But basically, we had the example in New York, but in the US, where you have two sides. So the seller and the buyer, they are each represented by an agent, and each agent are representing their clients and the client's interest. In Paris, in France, it's different. You don't have the buying agent, you only have the listing agent in the middle, which means there is a huge conflict of interest because the selling agent, the listing agent needs to cover the seller side, but he will also do the buyer side, which means he will get all the information from the seller and the buyers. And this is where the conflict of interest happen. If it's like having only one attorney for both sides, and at the end, the buyer is not represented.
And it's basically what the word for that is. It's a dual agency all the time.
All the time. And the problem is that at the end, this is not the buyer or seller who is doing the deal. The agent is doing the deal. And why that? Because in France, there is no MLS. There is no co-broker agreement, which means like all the agents are not working together. So when you want to see something in France, to visit an apartment in France, you need to call every agency. And in Paris, you have 3,000 agencies to call if you want to find a place. Good luck. People are not sharing, and that's why the buyer side is never well represented. So for that, we brought the buying agent to France, services to Paris, and where we are like trusted expert advisor, which means we'll tell you exactly how much is the apartment, because we do all the comps and we know Paris like by heart. And I said earlier that there is no MLS, but there is also less transparency of the market. When you go to Zillow in the US, it's easy to get all the numbers regarding previous sales, how much your neighbors bought is property. In France, we don't have that. There is very few information for the comps. So you don't know if you're buying it at the right price if you don't know well the market. That's why we're here. And we're here also to defend your interest only. So you're gonna defend only the buyer. And if our clients wants to buy in the 5th, in the 6th, in the 7th, on the top floor, ground floor, we don't have any incentive. And we're never going to push you to buy an apartment to another. And we'll be like very transparent with everything. We'll do the due diligence, about the building, about the apartment, the street, and everything. So this is more the parts of the search. And we also have the concierge service, because when you buy an apartment and it's not your primary home and not your country, you need to understand a lot of stuff. So we're going to explain you everything. But our goal is that from the beginning so before, during, and after the search, you will get the best people, partners with you. So before is like having a mortgage broker, choosing your notaire. So the notaire is the attorney who is doing the sale in France and doing the transaction, the real estate transaction. So it's important to get like a good one, like someone who know your country, how it works there, and helping you through the buying process. So everything is before. During is the search itself. So we are helping you finding a place. We can do it completely remotely. You come to Paris, we're going to show you everything and explain you the market, show you different neighborhood and everything. And during also it's the negotiation process and get the apartment at the right price, at the right condition. And after, when you get the keys, our job, it's not ending after. We are doing some property management for you. We can introduce you to contractors if you need some renovation. We can also do some introduction to CPA, attorneys, and help you with basically everything in Paris after you bought it. Like the example is the renovation. We can help you with that. Like a client just bought something in the first arrondissement. And look, so it was before and after. So they did like a really nice job there. And we helped them like completely remotely with this renovation, because 60%, 70% of the markets in Paris will need some renovation. And this is where also you can get like a better deal. And renovation here in France, in Paris, is easier than you can know in major city in the US. You don't need a permit if you do only interior renovation, for example. So everything goes smoothly, and it's easier and quicker. Not easier, but it's quicker, and you need to follow a process and get the good architect or the nice interior designer to help you with. But this is also our job. Yeah, the buying process in Paris is pretty smooth. It's not difficult to buy something in Paris, but there is a lot of process, a lot of steps to follow. First is define your search. We'll do it together. What you like, where do you want to live, and with your budget, we can tell you, okay, this is more in this area. You can find a better apartment, or maybe between this and this, we can show you different opportunity. So defining the search is very important. Then the second part is the financing. How can I buy it? So is it cash or financing? If it's financing, I will need to get pre-approved before starting the search. It's better. Also choosing the notaire. We are signing our search agreement. We need an agreement between you and us to start the search. And with this search, we are starting the hunt. So how it works is we are doing like a first selection, pretty wide, and we talk about it. And two ways. So we can do everything remotely, but we prefer that our client come to Paris, because we can see like a lot of property with them, like having nice time doing 3-4 days a week. We are explaining everything regarding the neighborhood, regarding the apartments. We have a nice lunch or nice apéro also sometimes. And then we start the search, and for during this week, we are doing all the process. If we find something, it's great. If not, it's okay, because we will know exactly what you want, and you also know what you want. So if something pop up when you are not in Paris, we're gonna see it for you, like doing FaceTime or video, and you can send an offer even if you're not in Paris, because the process is you get an offer accepted. You put an offer, the offer is accepted, and then you need to sign the contract. So the contract name is promesse de vente, and it takes between 2 and 3 weeks between the promesse de vente and the contract, the offer accepted and the contract. So you have time to come to Paris. Even if you sign the contract, as a buyer, you have 10 days of cooling off period. So why you need like a notaire ready? Because the moment you have an offer accepted to the contract is very important for the buyer, because only when you sign the contract, the seller will be locked to the deal. Even if you have a countersigned offer, it's legally possible to push for the sale, but the moment the seller signed the contract is in, and you as a buyer, you still have the 10 days, which is very important to get a contract signed quickly. And the closing, so between the contract and the closing, if you have a mortgage, this is the mortgage period, the loan process. So Amaury will talk about it also later. You will, if you have a loan, we put most of the time a contingency on the loan, So you will need like 45 days to 2 months to get the loan approved, and then it takes between 2 to 3 months to close, basically. The big question is how much does it cost? So the not so good news compared to the US is the closing cost. Closing cost, we call it the notaire fee, which is not very true. Why is more expensive? Because in France, only the buyer is paying for the closing cost. The seller is not paying for the transfer tax or anything. In this 8%, you will pay the notaire. So the notaire is a fixed cost. This is a fixed cost, and the closing costs are 8% for everyone. The notaire, your notaire, so the buyer's notaire, the seller's notaire, they're going to share a fee around 1.5%, and the rest, most of the rest, is French taxes to the French states. But the good news is the carrying costs are like how much owning an apartment costs me every month, every year. Basically, like, this is 10 times less than a major city in the US compared to New York, Miami, or LA. If you like, we had an offer accepted this morning for a nice pied-à-terre for clients in the six, close to Luxembourg Garden, like 60 square meters. The common charges are around like 300 a month, and the property taxes is 120 a month. So basically, this is 4K, between 4K and 5K a year. Renaud, as we know in New York, 4,000 a year. It's almost 1 month in New York City.
Yes.
So,
yeah, we are all dreaming of those carrying costs.
yeah. So this is the good
And
news.
yeah, condo insurance, homeowners insurance would be what, 400-500 a year, right? So it's
Also, yes,
it's a fraction of what you'd pay. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't talk about the insurance, but yes, the homeowner insurance is well less also. So owning an apartment is not expensive. This is so our fees, like, to be on your side without any conflict of interest. The buyers need to pay our fee. This is like 3.6% on top of the price you see online, for example. But the price you see online include already the listing agent fee, and our goal is to negotiate everything. Basically, it's the apartment, but also the listing agent commission and the condition of the sale. And the study show that someone who has like a buying agent here save between 8 to 10%. And our goal is to save you money and get the apartment, the best apartment we can find, negotiate the price, negotiate the condition, and that you will be super happy with that, and we will be very happy with that. The thing also, there is no upfront fees. I know like some of our competitors are doing that. We are not taking any upfront fees. The main reason, because we are nice, but now because this is completely forbidden to do that in France. You get paid at the end, and our goal is to find you a nice property, and we will get paid at the end. So the agency we have also in Paris, we are mainly doing search, but through our network in New York, in the US, or in France, we have some exclusive listings, so everything will be disclosed, obviously. We have a really nice one, renovated place, 73 square meters on Rue de Rivoli, in a very, very nice building. Facing the Rue de Rivoli, you have a view on the Jardin des Tuileries, and it's completely remodeled, like just under 1.8 million. We have this amazing apartment, also one bed, but the location is very prime in the 7th, close to the 6th, the quartier Saint-Thomas d'Aquin, next to the Bon Marché, Saint-Germain-des-Prés, in an old hôtel particulier. Like this is the truly Parisian apartment you can buy right now in Paris. We have a project of a client doing renovation for seven apartments. So 2 1-bedroom, 3 2-bedrooms, and 2 3-bedrooms, between 1 million to 3.3 million. AC fully renovated, great location behind Palais Royal. This is something, it will pop up soon. Also 3 bedrooms in Saint-Germain-des-Prés, in the 6th, at the beginning of Rue de Rennes, close to Église Saint-Germain. Great floor plans. If you want to be in the center of Saint-Germain in the 6th, it's a great option. And the owner is an American. And also Boulevard Saint-Germain, but on the 5th side, completely renovated, AC, 4 bedrooms, facing Saint-Germain, le Boulevard Saint-Germain, just under 4 million. It's off market. This one is completely off market. So yeah, we give you access to 100% of the market with our service, and we can give you also access to our exclusive listings directly. So thank you. Renaud, do you want to add something?
No, it's very interesting. So one thing to mention is in France, where the system works a little bit differently than in the US, meaning that when you are pricing an apartment, the first person who makes an offer at the asking price gets the apartment. This is something really different from here, New York, for instance, where you can have bidding wars. It's not because you are making an offer at the asking price then that you will get the apartment. In Paris, you will. So that's why prices are usually coming from the top and then going down a little bit by little bit, because you don't have the opportunity to raise your price or to do a bidding war or to sell it for a higher price to someone else.
Bidding wars are forbidden. Yeah, legally. Yes.
Thank you, Marius. Thank you, Renaud. We had their contact on the screen before, but we'll put it in the chat right now. And if you're watching us on YouTube, you will also get their contact in the description. So we're going to talk about how to finance all of this. Maybe before we move to Amaury, we can contact you, Marius, from a budget. What's the minimum budget to buy a pied-à-terre in Paris?
There is no minimum, but if you want like a nice studio starting around 4,000 to 500, studio 1 bed.
Okay. In purchase price?
Yes, for 400,000.
400,000. Okay,
yeah.
Perfect.
In terms of down payment, if you raise finance in euro, the minimum, the entry ticket would be about 150,000 euros realistically to make it work. So you need about between 150,000 to $200,000 to make it work from a down payment.
Okay, sounds good. We already have a couple of questions from the audience, but if you have more questions, put them now, and we're going to listen to how to leverage Paris with Amaury.
Yeah, I don't know to what extent we leverage Paris, but I can certainly talk about numbers and more to the point how to finance some of the beautiful apartments that Marius showed earlier. So a few words about myself and the firm I am the principal of. So the business is called BlueSky Finance, and we are basically in the business of arranging mortgage and insurance contracts. We are authorized and licensed as such in France, and we have a niche positioning whereby we primarily work with international buyers, so expats and non-French, non-residents. These days, US buyers account for about 50% of our prospects, of our customer base, and we assist about 100 clients a year. So, we work with obviously thousands of prospects, but we close about 100 deals a year, 50% of them with US clients. So yeah, so the firm has been trading since 2014. I'm the lucky founder, and for my sins, I've been in the industry since the mid or late 90s. So I'd like to think that we are pretty well connected, and that we've got a fairly strong expertise of the property and financing market. So yeah, I'd like to start with a few kind of home truths just to set the scene. So first thing to know and to bear in mind is that it is very much possible as a US person, as a French or American buyer, to raise capital in euros. So you can very much borrow from a French or European lender to finance the purchase of a real estate asset in Paris. I mean, the truth is, it has become more complex and more difficult over the years because of a number of regulatory sort of hurdles and which have been thrown at us. So it was actually easier, and there were more options 15 years ago. But contrary to some popular beliefs, it is still very much possible to borrow at very good terms, with very good terms, as an American. We'll talk about that in a minute. But if you're earning in US dollars, or if your assets are in US dollars, and realistically, your worst enemy is a weak exchange rate, is a weak dollar. And really, your strongest weapon to address that is to borrow in euros and navigate the exchange rate cycle smartly. Again, we'll touch on that in a minute, but bear in mind that borrowing in euros is the smart way to address the weak dollar cycle. As Marius said earlier, cost of borrowing in the Eurozone is way lower than in the US. That's the case today, and it's been so for the past for as long as I can remember. So again, there are opportunities to maximize the spread, and from a tax standpoint, again, we'll touch on that, but it is certainly tax efficient to borrow in euros to finance assets in Paris. I mean, what this graph shows is a lot of variation, but what it shows is that is the exchange rate, the euro dollar exchange rate over the past 10 years. And what you see is that it has gone through huge variations. I mean, as of today or yesterday, €1 bought $1.18, which is not as bad as it's been, but it's not as great as we've seen in the past 10 years. I mean, 2 years ago, about 3 years ago was the best time to convert dollars in euros, and if you go back to 2017, again, that would have been the worst time because the euro was extremely strong versus the dollar. Bottom line is, it's likely that over the next 10 years, 15 years, we'll see again significant variances with peaks and troughs and variances around 25-30%. So to address that, the real smart way is to borrow in euros and minimize the amount of dollars you convert to finance the purchase of a euro asset, and play the exchange rate game which is as simple as saying that you want to borrow in euros when the dollar is weak and repay your euro-denominated facility when the dollar is strong. And here you just used simple numbers. This is 118 is the current exchange rate. 105 is the exchange rate as it was in early 2025, just over a year ago. And what this shows is that if you were to, again, play the cycle, I mean, you could on a 1 million euro purchase. I mean, that's $130,000 sort of win if you repay when the dollar is playing in your favor. In terms of cost of borrowing, so here we're talking about exchange rate. Again, if you look at the long-term cycle, I mean, the reality is that the cost of borrowing in the Eurozone, and certainly in France, because that translates into a retail rate, is much lower than in the US or in the UK. Marius touched on that earlier. The current spread, the current difference between long-term fixed rate for French mortgages and UK mortgages is about 6%. So now the average rate is around 3.4, 3.5% in the market versus just over 6%, 6.4% in for a 30-year fixed in the US. So again, if huge opportunity here to, even if you have the cash, even if you can afford to use your capital, best strategy is to use other people's money to purchase something that you're going to use. I mean, the other sort of obvious takeaway is that not only is the cost of borrowing in euros strong, but you can certainly, I'm sure, maximize the returns that you get on your US denominated assets with a view to making your money work harder than the cost of borrowing. And the very simple example here is if you'd invested $1 million in the S&P 500 10 years ago, I mean, you would have gained about $2.4 million of over a 10-year period, whilst the cost of borrowing in euro at today's exchange rate is basically just a fraction of that. So key message here is that, even if you have the cash, if you have the capital, make it work harder in the market or in treasury bonds, and it's still going to yield, you're still going to achieve a higher yield than the cost of borrowing. What this ugly page shows is that is the gain that you can achieve by playing the carry trade and the currency play. So again, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but just again, the message here is that even if you have the capital, you can very much use your financial assets, which can be invested in a US brokerage account, and effectively borrow against that. So it's another way of saying that we can arrange euro-denominated margin loan secured against US brokerage accounts. So you keep your dollars, you borrow in euro. If you did that, the exchange rate and the cost of borrowing, the interest rate would be literally 3%. It's Euribor, which is at 2% plus a spread of 1%. So we can organize and arrange euro margin loan secured against US brokerage accounts with a view to financing Paris-based real estate assets. Just in terms of solutions, a few tax considerations. So without, again, spending too much time on that, but there are a few benefits around, again, borrowing in euros. The first one is that if you have, as Marius said, the cost of the carrying cost in France is much cheaper than in the US. And you can keep it low by avoiding any exposure to the so-called wealth tax, the French wealth tax. And the way to do that is basically minimizing the equity that you hold in France by carrying a debt against the real estate asset. And that's a very legal, safe way of remaining below the taxable threshold and not paying any French tax, which may be due on the value of your French real estate asset. Mortgage interest can be deductible from your UX taxable income. I mean, it's a complex topic, but we've certainly had a number of clients who've played that game and reduced their US tax exposure, income tax, by deducting interest paid on their euro debt. And then from an estate planning standpoint, you can reduce your tax bill by minimizing the net value of the real estate assets that you hold in France. And finally, the last point in terms of capital gains. If you have a brokerage account right now in the US, the chances are, if you were to sell some of your holdings today, you would crystallize capital gains on which taxes would be due. Again, the smarter strategy is not to do that. Keep your assets and use them as collateral to borrow in euros. If you want to arrange a additional residential home loan, fully secured against a French Paris apartment, this is what the terms, what the lending terms currently look like, and these are kind of typical terms, open, accessible to US buyers. So in a nutshell, you would amortize the facility, the notes over a maximum of 25 years. The maximum LTV loan to value that you can achieve is 75%, which basically means that you need to put down 25% equity plus closing fees. Interest rates are fixed for the entire duration. And right now that depends on the LTV band and on the maturity, but assume that you can lock a fixed rate between 3.5 and 4.2%. If interest rates go up, you're in the clear. If they go down, you always have options to recast the rate with your existing lender or refinance, remortgage to a new provider. As long as the spread is at least 1.5%. And finally, the one thing I wanted to indicate is that you always have an option to arrange what is called a delayed financing. So nothing stops you from paying cash, and then you have a 12-month window to borrow in euros with a loan secured against the property. And that will bring the same tax benefits that we previously covered. So 12 months post-purchase delayed financing opportunity. Just before we field some of the questions, just a few quick examples of cases that we have that we've currently processed and handled. So this was a 2-bedroom apartment located in the 9th arrondissement. Purchase price was just a notch below 1.2 million euros. So on this one, we facilitated, we sourced and arranged a 75% fixed rate residential mortgage loan, which was secured against the apartment. Repaid monthly from a French checking account. And what that means is that from a numbers standpoint, the clients had to put down about 400,000 euros. So that was their total down payment, including the closing origination fees and closing cost. And their monthly fixed installment is 6,579 euros, with an option to repay the loan whenever they want. So full flexibility to repay the mortgage without fees at any time. Another sort of proposition which I wanted to touch on earlier is this concept of euro margin loan. So the previous slide was really talking about the plain vanilla home loan proposition secured against the Paris apartment. What is currently available in the market is a proposition which is really interesting as long as you've got sufficient collateral to put against in the US. So here again, the concept is fairly simple. You borrow in euros at a very favorable rate of literally 3%. You only pay interest quarterly on the debt. And the loan, the euro loan, is secured against a brokerage account, which stays in the US, which is used as a pledge, as a collateral, and which remains invested. The collateral can be registered under personal names or can be registered under a trust. So it can be useful. I mean, again, it's kind of bespoke cases, but sometimes we have clients who hold, significant assets registered under a trust. So that remains registered. The financial assets remain with a trust, and they borrow in euros to finance the purchase of an apartment. Very tax efficient and very smart to avoid capital gains on equity holdings in a brokerage account. This is a case which is currently ongoing. Again, they are borrowing 3.5 million euros, and it's only costing them 5,900 a month. And the loan is secured against a brokerage account with a gross value of $5 million. Just to close and finish the conversation before we take on some questions, a few thoughts and tips which I would share with you. I think, as Marius said, if you're kind of planning on being in the market over the next 12 months, I mean, the first thing I would recommend is that you certainly obtain a pre-qualification. So just like in the US, I mean, the market is very different, but the one common denominator is that it pays to plan ahead of time. And as part of that, it's a very wise thing to obtain a loan pre-qualification so that you know exactly what to expect in terms of cash flow forecast and above all, important to know what you can realistically afford and pitch for in the market. The second point is that, and again, Renaud and Marius would be in a better position to advise you, but the Paris market is such that the absence of a loan contingency condition would put you in a stronger bargaining position when you negotiate the price. However, we can bear in mind that we can very much, or you can very much still apply for a mortgage and source a euro mortgage loan without a loan contingency conditions. And there are a number of ways we can mitigate the risk, even if you don't have a loan contingency condition, which is not unusual for premium properties in Paris. And finally, just a bit of a down-to-earth takeaway, but there is no need to open a checking account. before you you find your perfect pied-à-terre. This comes as part of the process, and typically anything to do with checking accounts, mortgage finance, home insurance. I mean, all that is organized as part or during the origination process. So no need to anticipate. It's all covered as part of the process. So thank you very much for your time. Happy to take any questions that Romain may want to throw at me and my colleagues.
Thank you so much, Amaury. It was very clear. I'm testing your QR codes. So on the right, you can text by WhatsApp directly, Amaury. And I believe on the left, it should be to schedule a one-on-one meeting with you.
That's our site. So WhatsApp to write
it's the
to
website.
us. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, we'll
I see
end on the
one
website.
question,
Okay, perfect.
Romain, and someone is asking, in New York, we have the co-ops, the cooperatives, and the condominiums. Is there this kind of different properties in Paris? So the answer is no. There is only one kind of property. It's called like it's same as the condominium or the houses. So you have a title, you own your place. On also the process with the management company on all the application due to the management company is not really existing in Paris. So keep in mind that there is only one kind of property. It's a condominium in Paris. You have a title, you own the place.
Thank you.
Yes, and no condo application, which is easier.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna give you a couple seconds if you want to reach out directly to Amaury. His QR code is on the screen right now, and I'll cut it now. All right, and if anyone wants to scan it later, you can also ask us to put it again. We're gonna try to answer as many questions as possible. We have a lot. If we can answer with a brief answer, the goal is to answer all the questions in 10, 15 minutes. We have a question from Christophe. What is the best way to hold a title in France? Does it matter if one is a French citizen?
Well, I'll take this one, and then at a high level, two ways to hold title: either direct ownership or through a French registered company, LLC type, which is known as an SCI or SARL. So the best thing is to have a conversation with your notary, because it's very bespoke, and there is no specific rule. As you know, that doesn't make much of a difference whether you're a French national or not. It does from a financing standpoint, because the LTV can be maxed up. The LTV that can be sourced for French nationals can be up to 90%. So it does help if you hold a French passport.
All right. So the notary has nothing to do with the American notary. Maybe we can touch base again on what is the notaire in France. He does the job of the
attorney,
the lawyer,
basically
the attorney in the US.
Yes, the notary public is not a notaire in France. The notaire in France is an attorney. He is like a public and private figure, but he's the representative of the state of France, basically. And only a notaire can do a real estate transaction. They are doing also all the family plan, marriage, divorce, all the stuff like inheritance, estates.
Estate
but
planning,
only they, yes, estate planning, but only them can do the real estate transaction, and and fees are all the same for notaires. So you need to find one. We are working. Our clients work with a lot of notaires speaking English and know what you should do when you live abroad or live in the US, and they will guide you through that.
Sounds good. Do we need to season the funds in Europe for a down payment, Amaury?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. If a down payment is required, it can be wired, certainly at the last minute or a few days before closing.
Is there an exposure to the French tax system once you own an apartment in France?
It depends if you are a French resident or not. You have tax to pay if you own a place. If you're not resident, like your property taxes, the common charges of your building, and if you rent it, you will have to pay some tax on the rent you have. But that's pretty it. If you become a French citizen, this is another story. And
All right.
yeah,
So if we
before.
okay, so what about if we do a short-term rental? Can you own an apartment and rent it out month to month, or for
Yes.
6-9 months out of the year?
The thing with Paris, so we call it all the short terms, like under a month, is forbidden if it's your secondary home. If it's your primary home, it's okay for 3 months. But if it's a secondary home, the minimum will be 1 month. And there is different type of leases. We can talk about it later. But minimum 1 month, it's the legal. And you should know that some of the building now are less and less open for month to month
Short-term
lease.
lettings, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, so we need to check in the rules of the building. But yes, like the 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, pretty easy most of the time.
And from a mortgage standpoint, it doesn't make any difference whether it's a second home or a rental. That doesn't have an impact on pricing.
We have another question from Christophe. What are the qualifying financial metrics in France versus the US? PITI, for example, in the US. What's the PITI? Maybe you guys are aware. PT? No.
Frankly, I don't know.
Okay. Maybe we can come back to this question later.
Debt to income ratio is the key metric that is used to assess affordability in France. So DTIR, debt to income ratio.
Okay.
For regulated
another
loans.
question. Okay. Another question from Jessica. Is it true that you can no longer add air conditioning to an apartment due to change in regulations?
I don't know any change of regulation, but you need authorization to get the AC in your apartment by with the building. And there is some apartments you can hide, the AC blocks outside in the courtyard or in the roof or somewhere. So it's a case by case, and you can't put AC everywhere in Paris. And it's hard to get the authorization, but if you have outdoor space or some stuff to hide it, there is also water system, so everything is inside your apartment. You can install one, but it has to be done properly.
We have a question from David. Do you recommend properties just a little outside of Paris, areas that are still accessible by the metro?
Yeah. Yes, it depends. What is your goal? Like, is it are you coming only 2 or 3 weeks, or months, a year, and you want to be in the center of Paris to enjoy more Paris, or do you want like more space for your family, stay more time? Obviously, outside of Paris, you get more square footage most of the time, and there is some area, but it really depends of the use of the apartment. And the strategy with the buy.
Yeah. We have a question from Kimmy. Can you briefly explain short or long-term rules on selling the property after purchase and/or any tax changes after a certain amount of time of ownership? I've heard different facts.
Maybe around capital gains. So
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Well, I mean, to put it very simply, there is a taper relief. I mean, if you're talking about capital gains, and if your property has gone up in price, there is like a fairly complicated taper relief scheme which applies, and you're 100% in the clear after for income tax for 22 years. So that's
yeah, and 30 years for the like
yeah,
social
yeah.
tax. So, and it's like decreasing over the time. So basically it's 36 at the beginning and it becoming 0 after 30 years. And during this period, it's going down.
Decrease, yeah, there is a taper relief. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a good question for you on your negotiation skills, Marius. What percentage of the time can a buyer agent obtain some or all of their fee from the seller's agent?
Obtain our own fee, us. Like in Paris, like there is not a lot of co-broke, and us, we decide like to be paid by the buyer, to be completely on the buyer side, completely transparent, to have no conflict of interest, and not paid by the seller, basically. We're gonna negotiate the listing price, the listing agent commission, but it's pretty rare that the seller is paying for our fees, except if we are on the seller side, and it will be disclosed from the beginning. But we are not sharing fees.
All right.
I
So
don't know if it's
we'll
clear.
try to answer. Yeah. We'll try to answer the last couple questions we have. From Robin, is it true that a mortgage taken in France must be paid off by age 75? Amaury?
It's pretty true, yes. The general rule of thumb is that I mean, I'm not talking about the margin loan sort of approach, but if you're the traditional way, yes, a lot of lenders ask that the loan is fully amortized by the age of 75. True.
How do you get a mortgage on a property if you don't have a French bank account? Question from Kim.
You don't, so you don't need a bank account when you apply for a mortgage. So typically, the bank, the lender that will advance the funds will onboard you and open a checking account, which can be used to pay your utility, water, phone, broadband, whatever. So again, that is done, but it's all part of the process, like the homeowners insurance. So that happens in due course.
Amaury, can you confirm, is there a purchase loan minimum? I heard often banks won't lend under 300K, but they have had some say otherwise. Question from Anne-Marie.
Paris assumed 200,000 euros minimum in terms of loan amount.
Sorry. Question from Jennifer. If you borrow against your US brokerage account, is there a risk of a margin call? If there is a downturn in the market?
Good question. Yes, there is. I mean, technically, the way it works is that banks work out a lending value. So if you've got a portfolio worth 100, in any case, they won't lend you more than, depending on how it's invested. But if it's invested in in equity, they won't lend you more than 60. So there is there is a lending value which is worked out at inception in any case.
We have a question from Hélène. What are the possibilities for people who are 60 years old or older to obtain a mortgage? Would it work if a down payment was 50%? Or would you recommend the margin loan? loan?
Depends on the loan amount, but at 60, all options are open. So age is not well, it is a consideration, but you can still borrow at 60, 65, and the key thing is to have visibility over your future, sorry, your future cash flow and potentially your post retirement income. But I mean, if you've got a 401ks or financial assets, that's that's absolutely fine.
Christophe was saying, I see the 60 to 90% loan to value. What is the term on the margin loan? Is it a loan? Is it also 25 years?
It's open-ended. On the margin loan, it's open-ended, so it renews automatically, just like in the US, basically.
Okay. We have an anonymous attendee saying, doesn't France look down on American trust? I've heard they're not good to have before moving to France.
Okay, I think again, in a nutshell, it is difficult, or generally speaking, not recommended to buy through a trust. So having a US trust hold title can be challenging, which is why either you as an individual hold titles or through a local SCI LLC. However, you can pledge assets which are held by a trust. So that can be done.
And last but not least, we'll finish with a question from Cindy. If there's a leak above my apartment and the owner is nowhere to be found, what do we do, Marius?
No, it's easy. The
Marius,
property
the plumber.
management. Yeah, call the
Insurance.
plumber. No, the thing is, I think the question was if the owner above me is not here. And so if it's not here and there is no way to contact him, the property manager of the building, which means the syndic, has all the information and can reach the person. And if there is a huge emergency, they will have to enter the apartment.
And you should make a claim regardless. You should make a claim as soon as possible on your insurance policy.
Yes. Unfortunately, a leak in Paris happens, but it's it's pretty easy when both neighbors are okay, and the insurance take care of everything. Basically, you don't have to deal with anything, and insurance take care of it.
Unfortunately, it's a common occurrence. Yes.
Yes. Well, we are living in old buildings. We are the city is improving every year, changing pipes, changing things, but obviously sometimes it happens. But that's a minor problem.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time today. I added the emails of Marius and Amaury in the chat. If you want to reach out to them, feel free to do so. You will also get the full recording of this session in an automated email in 24 hours. And you can also see this on our social media channels. If you need any contact from any webinars you've seen previously on Frenchly, you just have to email any Frenchly email that you have, the newsletter or whatever, and we'll just forward your email to the right expert. Thank you again. Good luck on your Paris purchase, everyone, and hope to see you soon.
Merci, Romain.
Bye.
Bye-bye.